Hey there, Filian. My name's Max Forge, and I teach history lessons over on Twitch. Being the autistic history nerd that I am, I thought y'all might want to learn a little bit about the time a tree almost caused World War III. The year was 1976, and there were quite a few things going on. Disco was peaking, America had just celebrated its bicentennial, and of course, the Cold War was in full swing. But today, we're actually going to focus on Korea. Back in the 1950s, North and South Korea actually threw hands over who got to run this peninsula. The South had been backed up by the United States and the United Nations, while the North was backed by the Chinese and the Soviet Union. After 3 years of violence, stalemates, and an insane body count, they called a ceasefire in 1953. Now this wasn't a peace treaty, but let's just call it, we're good for now. They drew a line roughly around the 38th parallel and slapped the buffer zone down the middle, calling it the DMZ, or Demilitarized Zone. Now inside of this DMZ, there's a spot called the JSA, also known as the Joint Security Area. It's the only part of the DMZ where soldiers from both sides stand, literally face to face. And it's actually the only place where North and South Korea patrol and share joint custody of a tiny slice of neutral land. Now I want you to imagine two divorced parents trying to co-own a bathroom, and both of them bringing guns. Yeah, it works out about as well as you think it would. Now you might be asking yourself, Max, why does any of this matter? Well, I'll tell you why, because this is where the tree comes into play. The tree in question was a big old 98-foot poplar tree. Herein lies the problem. The tree was so tall that it actually blocked the line of sight between a UN security post and a South Korean checkpoint. It's kind of important to be able to see those when your entire job is watching the scary neighbors to the north. So, on August 18th, 1976, a U.S.-South Korean team went out to trim the tree. It was just a basic work detail. 2 U.S. officers, Captain Arthur Boniface and First Lieutenant Mark Barrett, a few Korean soldiers, and some workers with axes. Enter Lieutenant Pak Chul, also known as Lieutenant Bulldog. He's a North Korean officer known for being a little bit extra. He shows up with 50 North Korean troops, watches for a bit, and as the story goes, tells the team to stop trimming the tree because the great leader himself planted it. Yeah, no joke. They actually tried to call the tree a holy relic and said it was planted by their leader, Kim Il-sung. Now, Captain Boniface could respond a number of different ways, but at this moment, he decides to do the most crucial thing of this entire event. He turns his back and basically says, without saying it, "That sounds like a you problem, my guy," and continues his work. That is a huge mistake on the part of Captain Boniface. Lieutenant Bulldog sends a runner for backup, and only a few minutes later, a truckload of North Korean soldiers pulls up. Now there's over 30 North Korean soldiers on their side. Then the moment pops off. Pak calmly takes off his watch, folds it into a cloth and pockets it. Then, in Korean, shouts, "Kill the bastards!" The North Korean guards grab clubs out of the back of their truck. They take the axes from the team sent to chop down the tree, and they swarm them. Boniface is overwhelmed immediately, beaten to death with axe handles and clubs. Barrett makes a run for it, tries to hop a low wall, but he's chased down, cornered in a ditch, and is also beaten to death with axes. The whole thing lasts under a minute. The workers barely escape with their own lives, most of them injured. No shots fired, just raw brutality. Then the North Korean soldiers retreat like nothing happened. The aftermath is utter chaos. The US and South Korea flip. The US goes to DEFCON 3. The highest DEFCON rating prior to actually declaring war on a nation. The world is watching. 2 US soldiers have just been murdered inside of a neutral zone. Nuclear tensions were already high, and this, let me tell you all, this nearly sent everything off the rails. But instead of launching airstrikes or going full Rambo, the US decides to respond with the biggest showing of force that the Korean Peninsula has ever seen. Enter Operation Paul Bunyan, yes, named after the giant mythic American lumberjack. This wasn't just pruning branches, ladies and gentlemen. No, this was America unzipping its fly, pulling out its red, white, and blue weenie, and slinging it all across the DMZ. August 21st, 1976, 0700 sharp. The U.S. command rolls in like it's Judgment Day. 16 combat engineers with chainsaws revving like it's about to become the Texas Tree Massacre. 64 South Korean Special Forces, Taekwondo masters disguised as workers. 30 American security troops armed with pistols and axe handles. Dozens of Hueys filled with infantry circling overhead like vultures. Cobra gunships hovering ready to delete anything that twitches on the North Korean side of the border. B-52 bombers, nuclear capable, cruising over Seoul like angry gods. F-4 Phantoms and rock fighter jets screaming overhead just to flex. 12,000 troops on high alert across the peninsula. Artillery, tanks, and yes, even a whole ass aircraft carrier strike group sitting right off the coast. They roll up to the tree, radio North Korea a quick, "Hey, just trimming the tree today. Okay, thanks, bye. Don't try anything." Chainsaws fire up, the commandos fan out, North Korean soldiers stare from across the bridge and call in reinforcements. But they do nothing. They sit there and watch. And for 42 straight minutes, the engineers cut down the whole damn tree. No resistance. And just as an extra fuck you, left a single waist-high stump just to say, "We were here." North Korea blinked. No shots were fired, no escalation, just silence. And then, something unheard of happened. They actually issued a statement of regret. And for North Korea, basically the equivalent of saying, "Our bad." They didn't say sorry, of course, but that's not how the regime works. But the message was clear. This got way too real, and we are not ready for that smoke. There was no war, no firefight, but there was one hell of a warning shot sent across the DMZ. Loud enough so that the North and South came back together and restructured the JSA. There was to be no more mingling of troops from the North and South. From now on, guards would stay strictly on their side. As for the tree, well, a few years after it was chopped down, the stump wasted away, was gone, mulched, vaporized from history, but the memory stayed, and in its place, plaque honoring Captain Arthur Boniface and Lieutenant Mark Barrett, the 2 U.S. officers killed in the attack. A tree nearly started World War III, but it also became a monument not to nature, but to restraint, ridiculous overkill, and the kind of quiet fury only the United States military can instill in another country.